look at all these stunning cabochons. Lynn and Lori over at Cabalicious and More create these beauties by a process of combining different types of acrylic paint. They use color shifting, metallics, pearls, and opaques. Included with the paint are different products like mica powder, glitter, silicone, and other painting mediums. These products combined in a specific recipe create a cellular reaction, making each one very unique. The cabs are then cut into shape, covered, then put into a bezel for their protection. Lynn and Lori sent me a bunch of them to choose from to create this tutorial with. It really was so hard to choose. I finally narrowed it down to one set and came up with a bracelet and pendant that I hope you love. In this tutorial, I will show you step by step how I created them and how I incorporated these stunning cabs into the process. You too can choose from these very cabs in these photos to create your very own jewelry with. I will have a link to the products in the description below this video. So stay tuned and I will show you what I created. I ended up choosing this beautiful set here. The largest cab is 25 millimeters, and the three smaller ones are each 16 millimeters, and they come in a set. So I'm going to go ahead and set up with supplies needed, and I'll return. The supplies I will be using in this tutorial are some mica pigments from RJ Crafts, and this is the copper leaf powder, silver foil, and gold leaf powder. And these are really gorgeous pigments, and when you use them, they look just like the metal. I'm going to be using some eyelets. Of course, you're going to need your set of cabs. This is the 25 millimeter cab, and these three are all 16 millimeter. You're going to need a bracelet blank. I use this bracelet cutter from RJ Crafts, and it comes with a little circle cutter. I use this cutter here just to prop this cutter up in my oven so that the ends don't touch the tile. You're going to need your blade for your clay, a brush, and the brush is going to be used for this poly paste. I use these tools here. These are dotting tools, and I use this tool here. And that comes in a set. I'll have links to everything in the description below the video. I'm going to be using these two small circle cutters. And the polymer clay I'm going to be using in this project is Sculpey Souffle. And this is the poppy seed, which is black. And this will bake the same as Primo 275. And I'll tell you for how long I bake it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get set up and we'll get started. I forgot to mention you're also going to need a ceramic tile as your work surface. I have taken my Sculpey Souffle and I've rolled it out to a number 4 thickness on my pasta machine. Number 1 is the thickest setting. So number 4 will be a little bit thinner. And what we're going to do is we are going to take the circle cutter from the bracelet set and we are going to cut out 7 circles. And zoom in just a little. And get my acrylic block. And I'm going to go ahead and cut 7 of these. And we're going to remove the excess clay. And the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to take our copper leaf, and each one of these we are going to add the copper leaf to. And I like to do this with my finger for this one because we're going to kind of make it look kind of aged. So we're just kind of dabbing it on here and there. And you just do it to, you know, where you like it. If you want them to be completely copper, go ahead. Make them completely copper. I just kind of want it a little sporadic. All right, now let me clean up and I'll be right back. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take these off of our tile and we're just going to set them off to the side. But first, we're going to clean up the edges. So you just kind of, you can pat that with your finger and clean the edges up nicely. Go ahead and put them off to the side. I'm going to do the rest off camera. All right, I have cleaned those up and zoom in or zoom out a little, and I have them off camera now. So, or they're right there, but they're about to be off camera. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our next circle cutter, which is this one, and we're going to cut out 4 circles. And I rolled this souffle, Sculpey Souffle, to a number 4 also. And on this one, we are going to add gold to that. And we're going to do it exactly the same way. And that is simply taking a little bit from the cap and applying it to your finger and putting it on. And if you want some of the black to show through, you can do that. And if you want it all in gold, you can do that also. And now I'm going to take these off my tile and clean the edges up and put them off to the side. And that's just taking my fingers and going around them to clean those edges up and put them off to the side. I'm going to finish these and I'll be back. And one last time, I rolled my Sculpey Soufflé out to a number 4, and I'm going to take the smallest circle cutter and we're going to cut 4 circles. Take up the excess clay, and now we are going to dab some silver foil powder onto those. And just using my finger and lightly rubbing some on. These micas are a little messy, so you want to make sure to clean up your area. You might want to wear a mask while working with these because they do tend to float around. You might breathe them in. You probably don't really want to do that. And I'm trying to get most of it off my fingers. And again, we're going to lift up off the tile and clean our edges and put it off to the side. So I will finish these up and be back. All right, now we are going to be using our dotting tools and this tool here, and I'm going to be using this end. We are going to take 4 of our circles and we are going to stack them and create our designs. But in order for the clay to stick, since we added mica to it, we now need to put some of this poly paste on so that when we cure it, the pieces will stick together. So I'm going to start with 1. We have our largest circle, and I'm going to put it down in this corner because I'm going to need to work. Make sure that's centered. I'm going to need to have room to work to put the designs on. So the next one that's going to go on is going to be the gold, and then we'll put a silver. And we need to take a little bit of our poly paste, and you could also use liquid Sculpey. This is just my preferred, and I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to paint this on to the back of this circle. To help it adhere to the piece that has the mica on it. Flip it back over and center it the best you can onto that circle. And then we're going to do the same with the little silver dot. And I'm just going to put some of the poly paste on that. And then we'll take this and put it on top of that and center it the best that you can. So you've stacked the 3. I'm going to go ahead and do that with the other 3 for a total of 4, and I'll be back. All right, I have done all 4, and I have them each on a corner of my tile, which gives me room to work. So as you can see, they are stacked. And now what we are going to do is we want to put our texture on them. So I'm going to zoom in a little more. And let me move these extras out of the way so we don't smush them. And I'm going to zoom in even more. Hopefully my camera won't go all blurry because I'm going to show you on this one how I add the texture. I am going to take this tool here. I'll have a link in the description. It comes in a set and I got them at Harbor Freight. And the first thing that I'm gonna do is just put some texture on the bottom. And I'm just gonna go around like this. And I'm pushing lightly, I'm not pushing all the way down, but just enough to give it texture. And I'm hoping that this is still in the camera shot. And just do this all the way around. And you can use anything that you want for texture. I'm just showing you what I used and how I achieved it. And as you can see, now you know why I put them so far apart, because this tool is long and you really need some room to work with it. And last one. So now we have the texture all the way around. And remember, this is going to be kind of rustic looking, so, you know, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. And now I'm going to put my texture in this area. And all I did with that is use this very small dotting tool. And I'm just going to go all the way around, pushing dots in it. And it's that simple. And there we go. Now we have some texture. And last but not least, we are going to take the largest ball on here and put a texture in our top piece. And to do that, I just line it up and push down. And that's it. So now you have a pretty medallion. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of them and I'll be back. All right, I have all 4 completed and this is what they look like from the side. And I really love this look. All right, the next thing that we need to do is we need to take our 3 small cabs, and these are glass domed. These are not resin domed. And we need to make a bezel for them. So we're going to take some more souffle, and I've got that. I'm going to roll that out to a 3 on my machine instead of a 4. And we need to cut 4 circles out of this cutter that comes with the bracelet set. So we need 4. I'm sorry, we need 3. We don't need 4. There's only 3 cabs. I can count. All right, so we have 3. And we want to get our blade, which I have seemed to misplace. And we want to get these up off the tile so that we can clean them up just a little bit. So I'm going to put them over here and clean that up. All right, so you want to take one of your circles and you're just going to clean up the edges. Then you're going to take one of your cabs and actually set it down on the tile and then kind of center it the best that you can and push down a little. Just a little bit of pressure so you're pushing out some of that clay. Then I am going to take it up off my tile carefully. And now you're just going to mold this clay up over that silver portion, which is the bezel on the cab. So now you're giving it a polymer clay bezel. And we're actually covering up that little bit of silver. And now you're just going to tweak this, you know, till you're happy with it, till it looks even. And that may take you a little while to do, especially if you're a perfectionist. So you just want to go ahead and keep doing that until you're happy with it. You're going to do that with the other two. I'm going to do that off camera and I'll be back. All three of these have a polymer clay bezel on them. And as you can see, the back is polymer clay. Don't worry about this getting kind of, you know, gross from the clay on your hands. It will get dirtied up, but we are going to clean that up before we bake everything. So I'm going to get it set up to create the bracelet part, and I will be back. Before I do that, I do want to show you that we're just going to go ahead and get our pieces up off the tile and put them off to the side. And just make sure you have a clean blade when you do this. And just work it around. I'm trying to do this without getting my head in the camera. Work it around and just pull it up off the tile. If you need to do a little bit of reshaping, you can. So we're going to go ahead and do that to all of them and put them off to the side with our other circles. And I'll be conditioned this Sculpey Souffle, and I have rolled it out on a number 1, which is the thickest setting on my pasta machine. And now we are going to cut our bracelet shape. So this is kind of I didn't make it very wide, so I want to make sure that I center it on there with no creases and that everything is getting on. And you definitely want to use an acrylic block to do your cutting for this. And then I just go over it, make sure I've got everything pushed down. And go ahead and pull your cutter up and pull your clay away. And now you have this really cool shape, and it's thick. So now what we're going to do is construct our bracelet. But the first thing, I think what I want to do is clean my edges up, and there actually isn't a whole lot of cleaning to do. So maybe I'll just leave it alone for now. And if I need to clean them up, I will later. So the first thing we want to do is construct the bracelet. And we want to add our cabochons and little medallions that we made. Our cabochons are going to go in the center 3, and our medallions are going to go on the outside. We want to leave enough space here to put our eyelets so that we can put the findings on. So the first thing we're going to do is put down our circles, and we'll start exactly in the middle. So just do it, you know, as even as you can. Doesn't need to be totally perfect. And I don't need to use any of the poly paste on this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more because we are putting raw clay onto raw clay. We only put the mica or the foil on this one side. So I'm just making sure that I have it as centered as I can. Doesn't, like I said, it's not going to be absolutely perfect unless you measure it out absolutely perfect. And do the same for this one. And this one over here. Now to put our cabochons on, we are going to need, and now that I'm looking at it this way, I'm kind of too low over here. Move it up a little. And no, that's fine. All right, now we're going to put our cabochons on here. Actually, we'll do that last. Now we're going to go ahead and put our medallions that we created, these little cute things here. And these also are raw on the back, so you don't need to add any kind of poly paste. And I'm going to do this one first. And this one. And like I said, this one's probably going to be a little off-centered because you want to leave an area where you can put the, and I'm just going to lay this down, not just kind of lay it there so I can see where we're going to need to put our eyelet. And you don't want the eyelet too close to the edge. So I think I'll take this off and we'll go ahead and situate our eyelet first. And you want to center it the best that you can. So I'm going to have to turn this and look at it from an angle. And I don't want it too close down here. And that looks good. So I'm just going to go ahead and push that in. And it doesn't, it should go all the way to meet the tile, which it does. And you don't even need to worry about that little bit of clay in there. That will come out after we bake it. So now we're going to go ahead and put this on, and you can get that, you know, as close to that eyelet now without covering it as you can. And if it covers a little bit, that's fine. So go ahead and put that on. And you're just going to apply a little bit of pressure, but these will stick together when we bake them. And we're going to go ahead and do the other end the same way, and I'll be back. I have done all of the medallions now, and the eyelets are in. And now we want to put our cabochons into these three middle ones. So you're going to definitely need the poly paste again because this has the copper foil on it from the mica powder. So I'm going to be a little generous with this, and I'm going to make this my center. And you're just going to apply the poly paste on the back with a brush. And I'm going to put a little bit more on because I really want to make sure that these stay. flip it over, and we're going to center it onto there and push down. Just a little bit of pressure. So really, there's just a little bit of copper peeking through, and we really didn't have to put the mica on all of that. You could have just done it around the edges. And if you didn't want to do the mica, you didn't even have to do that, so. And then you're just centering the cabochon to make sure a little bit of that copper is peeking through. And I'm going to go ahead and do the other two off camera, and I'll be back. All right, I have all my cabochons on there, and I have them centered the best that I can. Remember, you've just pushed down a little bit with your finger, so not to distort this, but to make sure that they are on there good. And these all seem to be on there good as well. So the next step is you want to take this up off your tile and put it onto your bracelet blank. What I like to do is I like to clean my blank first with some alcohol to make sure that from the time I used it before, everything is off of there, that there are no oils or anything on if it's your first time using the blank. So just go ahead and just, you know, wipe it off with some alcohol and a paper towel. So I am going to get my blade. You want to make sure your blade is clean when you do this. And I am going to pull this up off the tile very carefully. And then you can just go ahead and carefully pick it up. And at this point, you can go over your edges and smooth them all out if they need smoothing. Otherwise, we can hit them up with a nail file at the end after it's been baked and get those little extra thingies off, but that looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and want to put this onto our blank, and I'm going to zoom in just a little. And you're basically going to want to line it up the best that you can, and meaning that should be center. So kind of look at it first, and then you look down at the bottom and see where those are falling. And that actually looks very good. I can't believe I did that on the first try. So now you're just going to kind of push down a little to make sure that it's got a good connection with your blank. And you may have to lift up a little. You want to make sure it's straight on there. You may have to lift up a little on here. And I'm making sure I'm as even as I can be up at the top. And you might have to pull just a little bit on your clay, and you can do that. It's a little malleable. And I want to make sure I have a very good connection to my blank. And then I'm going to look it over and make sure, see here, I don't have a connection there, so I kind of want to push down just a little. You don't want to distort it, but you do want to make sure that it's on there. So just look at it from both sides, making sure that it's even up here and that it is definitely on the metal. So I'm going to finish that off camera, and I'll be back to show you what it'll look like. I have made sure that it's on here good. And if you look at it from the sides, or from the top or the bottom, whatever that is, you can see that everything is touching the metal. So you're going to have a nice rounded form when we're done with this. And if you see, all of the cabs are on there good. I'm still happy with their placement. There's no gaps. Everything is adhered. No gaps here. Those are where I want them. All right. I am very happy with this. So I need to clean these off before we put them in the oven. To do that, all you need is a Q-tip and some alcohol. And you're just going to go over the glass portion and clean up any haziness from touching the glass to the polymer clay. I don't think I was in camera shot. So I'm just going over it with a Q-tip and getting up all the hazy residue from the clay that got onto the cab. And you really want to do that before you bake. And it's just bringing back the nice shine to it. And one last time. Just to be sure. All right, that looks good. All right, you could set this down on your tile, and if nothing is touching, and I'll show you what I mean. If it's set on the tile like this, and none of your clay is touching, you could bake it that way. But I do see that right here, it is touching. So what I like to do, and let me zoom this back out, is take my square cutter here and carefully put that in there. And then I can put this in the oven just like that, and it's resting on here right in the middle. And then that way nothing's touching. So you have no problems with anything at the bottom touching the tile and distorting your piece. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in my oven, and I'm going to bake it at 275 for 1 hour. Make sure that your oven is preheated so it's at the 275. So you're getting a full hour bake. It's very important. You want to make sure that this clay is very strong because it's going to be used for a bracelet. I like to use the souffle, the Sculpey souffle, to create bracelets because it gives you a lot of flexibility without your bracelet breaking. So I'm going to go ahead, put this in the oven, and when it's done, I will be back. All right, the bracelet is out of the oven and it is completely cooled. So we can go ahead and take a look at it. Now your next step is to figure out if you want to leave it as is. Now I do suggest that you add something to these parts that have the mica foil powders on them. I wouldn't worry so much around the cabochons where that's showing because it's very little, but this will be rubbing up against clothes and, you know, maybe objects or whatever. So I would definitely protect those. So I don't know if I want to leave this just the way it is and just protect this, or if I want to give it a finish with varathane. And if I were to do that, this is what the finish would look like. And this piece actually is very satiny, and Sculpey Soufflé is, it looks very much like suede, and it is very flexible, as you can see. You can bend it very easily. So now I need to decide, do I want the black parts to look like this, or do I want to leave them like that? I definitely think I'm going to put the varathane at least on these parts. And then I do kind of like that. I don't know. This is this is the part that's the hard decision of what you want to do. So I think I'm going to go ahead and varathane these and let that dry and then come back and show you. I'm going to leave it on the form. We're not going to take it off of this yet, because if I do decide to varathane the rest of it, it will be just so much easier to leave it on here to be able to do it. Because you're going to want to do the edges, you know, on both sides. And it's just easier to hold it on here, and then you can hang it off of here again. So it's not touching anything when you set it down. I mean, at this point, you could, you know, set it like this on a table. But it's a hard decision because I really like the matted look. You know, I'm a UV resin girl, or 2-part resin, and I really like shine. But on this piece, I kind of don't want shine. I kind of like it just the way it is. I like the shine of the cabs, and I really don't want to take away from that. But I do really need to protect this. And I do have a matte finish that I could put on these parts, but I don't, that would completely take away any shine, and I don't want to do that because I do like a little bit of that shine. So I think even adding a little bit of varathane finish on this part would be okay. You know, I definitely don't want to put resin on there because that it'll give it a really glossy look. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to go ahead and I think varathane these, at least these, and I'm going to let it dry overnight, and I'll come back tomorrow. I'm going to sleep on it because I make my best decisions in my dreams. So I think I'm going to do that, and I'm going to sign off for today and come back tomorrow, and we'll go ahead and see what I've decided, and we'll go ahead and finish it off and put the findings on and be done with it. Then we'll work on the pendant. But yep, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to varathane these parts, let those dry overnight, and then I'll come back tomorrow. So I realized that I was going to do this off camera. As I was doing two of them, I realized, hey, maybe you ought to film this, Alison, since this is a tutorial. So I have done, this is varathane that I've just put in a ball jar. It comes in a quart, and I like to divide it up rather than using it all out of the quart and having that air dry and get wasted. So I actually did these two. They're still drying, so they're a little foggy in where the dots are, but that will dry without looking like that. And this is the brush that I'm using. So it's kind of a fine detail brush. And I am going to show you on one of these how I am doing it. So basically, I'm just going to, I want to make sure I'm in camera shot. I am going to zoom in a little more. All right. I'm going to take a little bit on my brush and then just dab it in the lid. And I'm going to start with the center of the silver and just lightly brushing it on there. And I want to make sure I get the edges. Now you're just putting a little teeny bit on your brush because we're going to actually be doing a couple coats of this. So now I'm just going to kind of dab it in this area. Take a little bit more out. Put that in the lid. And I'm going to dab it in here because you really don't want to fill up those little holes. So I'm going to take my brush and kind of pull. Actually, let's get these edges first. And then I'm going to kind of pull most of the varathane out of these little holes because you really don't want it to pool in there. And we can pull some of that down to the lower level of the next one. And because I'm not sure yet if I want to do that, I think I am going to go that route. But I don't want to get it on the black yet, just in case I change my mind and don't want to varathane that part. I'm going to just get it on what I like to call these little medallions. And it's just a thin coat. You're not going to lay it on thick because we are going to put another thin coat on top of this. I always like to add a couple coats of varathane. And it looks like I did get a little bit on the black there. But that's okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do this last one off camera and let this dry overnight and come back to finish this tutorial in the morning. So that's what that looks like. And I'll go ahead and finish up the last one and I'll be back. Okay, so I have decided I'm just going to go ahead and do it, and I'm going to do it tonight so that it can dry overnight. So I have varathaned the medallion parts, and now I am going to do the black parts. And I'm even going to get up in the black areas, the bezels around the cabochons. So I'm going to go ahead and start the process, and I probably won't bore you with all of it, but I want to show you how I'm going to do the edges and just do some of it on camera. The rest of it I'll do off camera. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little more. And all right, we want to do the edges. And it's okay if some gets on here because you can always clean your form up. That can be scrubbed with soap and water. So I'm going to go ahead and first do the edges. Now I don't, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to do the edges just like this. And normally I would just get all the edges first, But since I want to show you, I have a cat trying to get in my door. I want to show you how I'm going to varathane this part. We don't have to worry about in there because we're going to pop that out. That's going to be our hole where we're going to put our findings. So normally you would just do all your edges first and then go to this part. But I'm going to skip that and just go to this part. So you're just basically doing this very thin. We're going to do 2 coats. So you just want to put this on thinly. I am going to get this edge so that I don't forget it. And I'm getting up to the medallion. And that's really all there is to it. You know, you're just making sure that you're hitting every part. And I can see that I've missed this here. So I want to get in there. And you're just putting it on a thin coat. So you won't see any brush strokes or anything like that. And get a little more, put it in my lid, dab some of it off, and that's really all there is to it. Just making sure you get your edges. Getting up here. And then I'll turn it so that I can get this edge. And this is going to give it a nice little shine. It's going to have some texture to it because souffle has some texture, but that's fine. I think it looks good. And if you were to resin it, I just think it would be too shiny. Plus, you really can't use a hard resin on this because if it were to bend a little, that could crack. So you really don't want to do that anyway. If I were to resin this, and I do have a test piece that I did, and I'll show you. Well, let me put this on the form. It's still very bendable. And that has UV resin on it, but I use soft UV resin. So it's bendable and it won't crack. So that was an option that I was going to do, but I just felt like it was just too shiny. So I decided not to do it. But that really looks like patent leather. I don't know if people my age will remember this, or maybe even a little older. The patent leather shoes. I had those in grade school and kindergarten, and I loved my little black patent leather shoes. They were so shiny. So getting the edges, and when you get up by the cabochon, you just want to be super careful. And sorry, I'm a little shaky. That's just the way I am. You want to be very careful that you don't hit the glass with the brush. So that's why I like to use this fine brush. You're just going to go up to that edge without hitting the glass. So that's really it. You know, it's just taking your time and having a little patience. And it's best to leave 24 hours in between coats for the varathane to dry. So I'm not going to hit the little medallion parts again. Tomorrow, at least 12 hours. You don't really need to go 24 hours with a coat this thin, but I would go at least 12. So tomorrow I'll go ahead and hit all spots again. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing this off camera, and then in the morning I will put another coat on and come back. You'll see what it looks like once it's fully dry, and we'll go ahead and put our findings on. So until then, I will be back. All right, I am back, and I have put the second coat of Varathane on the bracelet, and now we are going to remove it from the form. Now it's going to be a little trickier, only because I did use the Varathane with it on the form, so it might be a little harder to get off. You may want to take your bracelet off the form first and then Varathane it if you feel that's going to be a problem for you. But what I like to do is I just take a palette knife, and it's not sharp, and kind of wedge it underneath, and at that point you just want to keep moving it underneath until you've broken the seal around the bracelet. And like I said, because I used the Varathane, it's really sticking on there, but it'll come off. I just kind of wedge it under there and keep moving. So I'm going to finish this off camera, and I'll be back. Our bracelet is off the form, and as you can see, it's very flexible. Now, you may find that if you did Varathane it on the form, that you're going to get some edges that might need to just be, you can either rub it off with your finger, or what I like to do is go on the inside and just kind of file down along the edges to just get that extra bit off. And I think what we'll do is Varathane the inside of the bracelet as well, just to give it a smoother, shinier finish on the inside. So it was just that simple to get all those little edges off. Anything extra, you can just do it with your finger. If that doesn't do it, then you just use that file. All right, what we need to do now is we need to poke those little holes out. And to do that, I like to use a bead reamer. And let's see, I'll put a piece of paper down to protect my silicone mat. And the best way to do it is to just take it from here, and it pokes right out. So I'm not gonna lay it down to do it. You can just hold it and poke those pieces right out. So you still have your little eyelet in there, which gives it a very smooth finish. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put our findings on. And you could leave the bracelet like that, but you really want to, because polymer clay will, as it warms on your skin, it can open up and your bracelet could fall off. So we really want to attach this with some findings so that it'll be sturdy on your wrist. So I'm going to go ahead and get those, and I'll be back. All right, I have chosen copper findings to go with the copper edges. And we're going to need to put split rings or jump rings in these two ends. So I think I'll use these here. They should be big enough. And to open your jump ring, you take a couple of your jewelry pliers, and you never want to pull it open. You want to take it and move it to the side. And go ahead and put that in. And I might need to go with, no, this will be fine. I was thinking I might need a little bigger. And then to close it back up, you just go side to side until they connect. And there you have it. So we'll go ahead and do the other side. Open up our jump ring. Go ahead and put it in to the hole. If I wasn't fumbling at this. And then we need to close it back up. And I probably could have gone with the next size up on the jump rings. But we will just go ahead and use these since we've already got them on there. Okay. All right, now we want to go with a smaller jump ring and apply our chain. And I don't think I'm going to need much chain, but I do probably need a little bit on each side. So I think I'll go, I kind of want it to be a tight fit. So actually, I don't think I'm going to use chain, because that's kind of large. So I think we'll just go with a couple jump rings and be done with it. And I think we'll go this size. Actually, I'll go one more size up. And we want to apply our clasp. And put that on there. And move back and forth till they're lined up. And then on the other one, I think I'll go a little larger because that's where we are going to be hooking into the jumper, or the clasp. The clasp is going to latch onto that. Put that on there. And there you have it. Just attach that there and your bracelet is complete. Now, I like I said, I would go ahead and varathane the inside just so that it looks smoother like the rest of your bracelet. All right, and this is the bracelet on. And I have a very teeny wrist. My wrist is like 5.5 inches, so this is a little big on me. Next time I'd make it a little smaller, but it really came out beautiful. These cabochons are absolutely gorgeous. Lynn and Lori just do an amazing job creating them. And there you have it, a bracelet. I'm going to go ahead and get set up, and we're going to make a matching pendant to go with this bracelet. And we will be using this cabochon here, which matches the set. So I want to show you, if your wrist is larger, you can definitely add chain to it and it won't fall off your wrist. But I did want to show you how flexible this is. I would not flex it straight out. There's no need to ever do that. You put a bracelet on like this type of bracelet. But as you can see, it is very, very bendable. So it's a very durable bracelet. All right, I'll be back and we'll get started on the pendant. Okay, what we're going to need to do is use our Sculpey Souffle again. And I have rolled out 4 pieces on the number 4 setting on my pasta machine, number 1 being the thickest. And I have this circle cutter set from RJ Crafts, and it has 8 different sizes. And I am going with these sizes here. We are basically going to be doing the same thing as this, but instead of the silver, we are going to be adding our cabochon. So I'm also going to show you how we're going to put this bail, bake this bail into the piece. So that's a copper bail. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I want to texture one of these pieces. So I'm going to take this one here and I'm just adding some texture to it. This is going to be the back of our piece. And this is basically just to give it, you know, something more than just being a flat background. Now we are going to cut 2 of the biggest circle. One of the small ones. And 1 medium. And pull up the excess clay. And for right now, we're going to put these 2 aside. Because we are going to work on our clasp. So what you need to do is you need to pull this circle off of your tile. And you may lose your shape a little bit. Just clean up your edges. And now I'm going to clean up my tile. Because what I want to do is I want to put these 2 together. I'm going to take this one off as well. And clean up the edge. Anyway, we're going to put this back down onto the tile. Face it down. And now we're going to take a little bit of our Kato poly clay and put it onto this bail. And I'm just going to put some on this side and some on the other, just to make sure we have a good bond. And now you're going to lay your bail down onto the clay. And you might want to stick a piece of paper under there for now to keep that bail so that it's level. Nope, that's a little too thick. And now we're going to take this piece and put it on top so that we have sandwiched the two together. And go ahead and pull this up so that we can even out all around. And because this is raw clay to raw clay, there's no need to add any of the poly clay to it. So this is our base, and we're going to leave our base black. Just kind of smooth the edges. All right, that's ready to go. So the next one we're going to work on are these two. And we are going to use our gold and our copper. And let's see, the copper was on the bottom. So the copper is going to be the bigger one and the gold is going to be the top one. And I'm only going to do the edges this time, so that we're not wasting so much product and making sure that everything sticks. So go ahead and open up. And we're only going to apply it around the edges. All right, now we're going to do the smaller one with the gold. Wipe my brush off. And just going around the edges with the gold. All right, I forgot to mention that you want to roll another one out at the smallest size that you chose. So this size here, you want to roll out another piece of clay because you're going to make your backing, the backing for the cabochon, or the bezel for the cabochon. So we're going to take this circle, smooth the edges out, and we are going to take our cabochon and center it the best that you can and pull those edges up. So you want to cover the bezel that's on there like we did with the bracelet, and smooth it out to where you're happy, where you feel it's even, or if you want a more organic look, you can leave it where it's not so even. That is entirely up to you. All right, I think that looks good. So I'm gonna put that there for now. And now what we want to do is we want to layer these. So I'm gonna release this one and clean the edge up. can take this one off and clean the edge up. And now you're going to put that one on top of this one. And you don't need to worry about using the poly clay because you've got that middle to hold it down. So you want to center it the best that you can. And that doesn't really look centered, but I don't know if I can get it off there at this point. I can try. Yeah. Just clean this up a little more. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now, with clean fingers, you are going to take your cabochon and you are going to center it the best that you can. So you might have to turn it around and really look at it first, and then go ahead and push it down. And now we're going to make our decoration. First, I'm going to release this so it's a little easier to get off when we're ready to completely get it off of here because we pushed down on it. So I have kind of altered the circle on it, but that's okay. You can smooth it back out to be a circle. All right, I'm going to put it back down on my tile. Actually, I'm going to lay it down on our piece, and then we'll add the decoration onto it. So go back to your original piece, and this is where you're going to want to make sure you're happy with the shape that you have. And if it's not a complete circle, I don't care, because it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going for kind of an organic look anyway. So now you're going to lay this down onto this one, and don't push it down too hard because you want to center it the best that you can. And that looks pretty good. So now we're going to take our two tools, and I'm going to start with the bottom, and like we used on the bracelet, and make our marks all the way around. This is also helping this to push into the bottom piece to really adhere it. But you don't want to push too hard, because then you will be altering the bottom piece. You don't want to do that. So I'm going to finish doing this off camera, and then we'll do the top part. Now we're going to do the dots with our small dotting tool, like was on the bracelet. And just do that all the way around. And there you have it. You can also use your dotting tool to smooth this part out here if you're not happy with the way it looks. And this tool as well that we made those bottom designs with. And of course you can always use your fingers to completely smooth it out. All right, the last step before we throw it in the oven is we want to clean up the cabochon. So get yourself a Q-tip and some alcohol and go ahead and clean that cabochon. So this gets off any of the clay residue, your fingerprints, all of that. All right, there you have it. We're gonna go ahead and put this in the oven at 275 for 1 hour. And we will be back when it's fully cured. Here is the pendant, fully cured and out of the oven. Go ahead and take it off the tile. And this is the back side with texture and the front. All that we have left to do is to put a coat of varathane on it to protect these areas where the mica is. And I will put it on the front and the back. So let's go ahead and start with the front. And I've got my jar of varathane and a small brush. And as you can see the date on this, June 21st of 17. This varathane is just like the day I got it. And I've already stirred it up. You'd want to make sure to stir it slowly, not to get any air bubbles. But it will last for a long time if you transfer it from the tin that it comes in and put it into like ball jars like this. So I am going to start down here, and we're just putting on one thin coat of varathane. And we'll let that dry. I like to give it about 2 hours in between coats. And I'm only going to be putting 2 coats on. And we're going to have to do this to the back as well. But this will give it a little bit of shine, and it will protect all the areas that have the mica on them from rubbing off and making your finished piece much more durable. So rather than bore you with this, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest off camera and the second coat off camera as well. And I'll be back when it is fully dry. And here is the finished pendant. 2 coats of varathane all the way around, back, sides, and front. Really like the way this came out. And of course the bracelet. And now you have a beautiful set. Add a chain or some rope or however you want to finish this off into a necklace. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. And if you liked it, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'm always putting up new and different free tutorials, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.